Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, President and Executive Writing Coach at Defend, Publish, and Lead. Welcome to episode 166, Talk to a Colleague About Their Writing. I've talked in a couple of episodes about the importance of having conversations about writing to keep it top of mind and also to normalize the experience of doing scholarly writing. At least the way that it's been presented to many graduate students is this idea that you go, you sit down, you go to your computer, and just magically words will appear. That's what they think they see their advisors doing or other colleagues in their department are doing. And it just seems that these texts are produced, but there's not really a lot of insight into how writing is produced behind that. Like, what is the writing process? How long did it take somebody? Do they write very slowly? Do they have to take breaks every 10 minutes? Do they write using audio? Maybe they just do like an audio dictation to write. All of these things tend to be mysteries. And so most of you that have been listening to the podcast for a long time know that I am all about trying to unveil some of these mysteries just to show scholars how writing actually gets completed. It doesn't matter if you're a new scholar or you're somebody that's been around for a long time and you've been putting out books and articles. On some level, it's still a mystery. My 5 closest academic friends, I take that back, with the exception of one out of my 5, now let's say 4 closest academic friends, I have absolutely no idea what they do to produce an article or a book. No idea. I could tell you about their research. I could say what were the last 5 articles they've published, but I could not tell you how did they produce those. And so this is really a good opportunity. Today I'm recording this on Valentine's Day, 2024, although it'll come out later than that probably. This is really a time to, I think, show colleagues a little bit of love about their writing and ask questions about their writing. And in that process, there are actually some benefits in it for you as well. So, of course, we want to support our colleagues, or for those of you in graduate programs, our classmates, people in our cohorts. For sure, we want to do that. But I think we want to talk to colleagues about writing in a very specific kind of way and where it's beneficial for both parties. So one of the great things about this is I think it's always important to ask people how their research is going, what's their project about, how did they come up with the idea? All those things I think are really great. Maybe problem solve with them about some of the things that they're finding challenging. But I think it's also great to fold into the conversation some questions about the writing itself. So for example, did you find it really difficult to start writing about this topic? Are you writing in any kind of new way? What do you do when you get stuck? Have you had some organizational challenges in trying to decide which ideas come first, which ones come second? What are some of the outlets you're thinking about putting this work in? So some of these questions, I think, will maybe surprise one of your colleagues because we don't generally talk to each other about those sorts of things. But I think just hearing from someone else who's a writer also is beneficial to hear how they go about solving some of these challenges. And for the record, this does not have to be somebody that's an experienced writer. So for dissertation students, I just talked to a dissertation student the other day who is in a cohort of 8 people. So they're number 9. There's 9 people in this cohort total. And one of the things that they found really helpful was that they actually took a group session. They meet, I don't know, I think it's like every 2-3 weeks, but they actually took a session to talk about how they actually sit down in writing sessions and get some writing completed. Because the idea was that they were all getting really busy with teaching. They all had teaching assistantships. They were all getting really bogged down in grading. They were kind of in an intensive program where there was a lot of student work to deal with. And so what they were trying to do is do a little problem solving and figuring out, well, okay, this one person in our group of 9 is actually getting some work done. How are they doing it? Here's another person who is really struggling. How can we problem solve for that person that's buried under 100 student essays to grade or something like that? So it can be very, I think, beneficial to help think about how to solve some writing challenges. But some other things that I think come out of this conversation, one would be it might give you some new ideas about how to do your own writing. So I think it's helpful to hear how other people's move beyond writing blocks when they get stuck. For sure, that's beneficial. But you might find out something that you have not even considered as a way to do writing. So I actually had a conversation with a colleague just here on my campus. It wasn't even actually about writing, but it was more about how to help students who are stuck with writing, and it came out as a result of that conversation. But I know one of the things that I thought was really, really surprising about this person when they were telling me about what they do when they get stuck with writing. They do essentially force themselves to keep writing, but what they do is they basically send a 5-minute timer, and that's all they have to do. So they have to lean in hard for 5 minutes, write as much as they can to try to get over that block, and then that's it. That's the end of the writing session for the day. And for this particular person, it surprised me because this is a person that's a very kind of what I would determine is maybe a rhythmic kind of a worker, where they kind of write same amount of hours every week, for the little that I know about how they work. And so this idea that they feel like they might need to like force a timer on top of writing to get writing generated, or give themselves a pass that after 5 minutes I don't have to do it anymore. I just found that a little bit surprising, and we had this really good conversation about how to kind of work through some of the stuck points. So I think maybe in the spirit of February, the Valentine's season, if you have a chance, schedule time to talk with a colleague. Go get a coffee, go get a beer, whatever it is, and ask them about their work, and definitely ask about, of course, the research and all the questions and all the things that they're really excited about, because sometimes people are more excited about talking about the findings of the project than the actual mechanics of putting the project together. But slide in a couple of writing questions and find out how they do that. If you need some inspiration, I've talked about this a very long time ago, and it was actually the inspiration for my favorite piece of scholarship that I've done so far. But I did a book called How Writing Faculty Write, and it's inspired by the Paris Review interviews, where the Paris Review, which is a literary magazine, interviewed novelists and poets and nonfiction essayists of the time, and asked all kinds of questions about writing. So some of it was content based, but a lot of it was about the production and the process and how you moved from an idea to a finished product. So I will put a link to the show notes to both of those things to check out some of the questions. I know in my own work, I ask direct questions about scholarly writing, so those might be helpful if you need some inspiration. But you can also take a look at the Paris Review interviews. There's a lot of really great ways you can look at some of these interviews online. I believe some of them are even live that you can listen to, just to get some inspiration to talk to colleagues about writing. It's probably time that more of us did that. Happy writing.